You know, we hear so often from clinicians about how difficult it is. You all work with people who are super anxious, and their OCD is really bad and it's taken over their life. And it's just overwhelming sometimes as a clinician, right?
Yeah. Even today, when I get a client who's really severely impacted by anxiety or OCD, I have my own anxiety. The thought that goes through my head, and I've been doing this for over 30 years, the thought that goes through my head is, oh my gosh, what if I can't help this person? Or what if I'm not skilled enough? Or where can I go to get more information about this? And so, I guess we want to just speak to that and let all of you know that we understand. We've been there. Even after 30 years in giving trainings on this, we still have those experiences. And I think one thing that's helpful is just, to kind of put your hand on your heart and be like, okay, yes, of course I'm feeling anxious, just like our clients, right?
Right.
Our clients are feeling anxious about whatever triggers them. And when we're seeing a severely anxious client, I think our ability just to hold space for that truth, that it's going to create some anxiety for ourselves. What do you do when you have a highly anxious client?
Right. I think exactly what you're saying is just acknowledging to myself, part of the reason that this feels so terrible to me is I have that urgency. I have that feeling of I just want to help this person. I want them to get better. It's almost like I can imagine the future. Let me put it that way. I can just imagine a future for this person where they could be their authentic self without this burden. And I want that so much for them. But often these are people who they've been through so much, they've suffered for so long that they don't have that kind of hope.
Yeah.
And so it takes an extra energy for me to feel like I'm conveying the information and sort of holding space for the hope for both of us in that. And of course, I can't overpromise. I can't say to a person, I know this is going to work, because we don't know that for every single person. But what I do know is that people get better. So I might not be able to see them get all the way to what I can imagine it to be, but I can see them get better. And I feel like I have the experience enough now that I can kind of help myself get past that and not feel the urgency. And I feel the urgency, but remind myself it's a process and it has to be that process.
Yeah, and oftentimes what I'm saying to myself, I'm actually saying out loud to my client as well.
Right.
Because you talk about two things I'm going to highlight. One is the urgency, right? And so they have urgency to get better, and yet they're feeling kind of hopeless. And I have urgency to help them get better and function in their lives again. And you also spoke to process. So, we're always saying to the clinicians that we train, trust the process. And I say that to my clients. This is going to be a process. And another thing I give for an out, I don't know if you do this, but I say to my client, give this a whole year. That doesn't mean you're going to be seeing me for a year or weekly sessions for a year, but a year from now, let's remember, okay, it is the middle of April in 2023. Let's remember next April to look back and see how far you have come.
Right.
And when you say that kind of words, now they begin to have this picture of, oh, I'm going to be much better a year from now. And so that gives me some space.
Right.
That gives us some time. I'm talking about trusting the process, and part of that is for them and part of that is for me. Right? And so that's kind of how I navigate those really anxious places.
Right. And I like the way you're saying is that it might not be that they're seeing you for a year, because of course we have clients that can't see us for a year. They can't afford to. There are all kinds of other limitations that mean it's not going to work out for us. We know from the beginning we're not seeing that person for a year. I mean, we might, although that can be overwhelming for somebody as they start too. But giving them that recognition that one of the things that's great about CBT with ERP is the research shows that people continue to get better even after they're done with therapy. I just always love that.
Yeah.
And you see that in people. If you know a client in sort of other parts of your life, you see somebody who says, oh my gosh, look what I've been able to do. Or somebody will send you an email and say, look what I was able to do long after we've discontinued seeing
It's awesome.
It is awesome.
I just want to make one more point, and that is that anxiety has this urgency, and anxiety is trying to get all of us to do something fast to get it to go away. And so I just want to remind all of you, and hopefully our videos help you with this idea, but it's that, we're not trying to get anxiety to go away. And so if you can also try not to listen to your own anxiety or to their anxiety, what we're really doing is we're trying to skill them up so that they can live a full life with anxiety. And at one of a presentation that I went to at this conference, they were talking about that they don't treat anxiety, they treat avoidance. Isn't that brilliant? Right? And so people with anxiety avoid things that feel bad, which makes their life smaller and smaller. And so when they come to you and you're like, oh my gosh, how am I going to help them? Try not to stay aligned with how am I going to help them not feel so anxious, and how am I going to help them not avoid the things that make them anxious. And now that begins to feel a little bit different too.
Absolutely.